So let's talk to players about what they're hearing and what they're doing about it. Democratic California Congressman, member of the Biden-Harris 2024 National Advisory Board, Khanna, is the present and future of the Democratic Party. And the fact that his pretty face is on your screen right now shows that they're not in complete disarray, because he'd be in hiding. Khanna, thank you very much for taking the opportunity. What is your best sense of what last night did and did not mean?
Thank you, Chris. I actually thought your monologue was pretty straight up. I mean, obviously, the president didn't have a good night, but he admitted that. And he said, look, I'm old. I don't know what his advisors were thinking having a 9 p.m. debate. There are probably not many people who are in their 70s and 80s around him, but he does much better in the day. He was at a rally today, and he was honest. He said, look, Americans like a comeback. They like someone who, even if he tripped and fell down on his own, who comes back at it. And I'm going to run through the tape. I'm in this because I have a vision for this country. And I think he still has a very good chance of winning, and he's going to be in the race.
What's the chance he's not the nominee?
Well, look, no one has a crystal ball, and so I'll have humility in saying that ultimately there's only two people who are really going to make that decision, Joe Biden and Jill Biden. I mean, to the point of the New York Times, look, it's not like the journalists or Congress people got together and said, Joe Biden should be our nominee, let's put him up. But that's not the way the country works. You know, Joe Biden won a bunch of primaries in New Hampshire and South Carolina. He won them overwhelmingly. You know what happens, Chris, with the media? Every time Donald Trump got some conviction, the media said, oh, he should drop out, and he kept winning. And every time that President Biden has some gaffe, everyone says he should drop out, but he keeps winning. And ultimately in this country, what matters is the voters. And so it's his decision.
Look, the question is, do you believe that Biden can make the case to the American people and beat Donald Trump?
I do, but I think he's got to be the Joe Biden at the rally today, not the Joe Biden at the debate. He's got to be honest. He's got to be honest that he's not as eloquent as he used to be, but his character is his eloquence. He's a simple guy, and he's an underdog. I mean, take on the Pennsylvania Rocky personality. He knows a few things. He knows right from wrong. He knows what is decent, and that's what he's offering the country. He's not pretending to be Barack Obama, Ronald Reagan, or John F. Kennedy, but this is what he's offering, and here's who he's up against. And I think if he is himself, he has a good shot to win. But if he's going to try to compete in forums where he's not as good, then I think he's setting himself up for failure.
Well, look, debating is part of the job. And the fact that he's not up to it is a problem, and he isn't. And the only thing I'll push back on, Congressman, is he didn't win primaries. You guys closed out all the competition in the party. And do you look at that? You didn't make the decision, obviously, so you can have clearer eyes on it. Was that a mistake? Should you have opened up the field? I know he's the incumbent, but this is not a normal time. Should they have opened up the field so that this didn't come as a surprise to anybody, because this is who he's been for the duration?
Chris, you know the ambition of politicians. I mean, there are a lot of talented politicians on our side. They didn't defer to some DNC chair. They looked at the poll numbers and they said, Joe Biden is really well-liked among Democratic primary voters. He's really well-liked among African-American voters. I can't win this race. And by the way, Ronald Reagan, a political talent of a generation, couldn't beat Gerald Ford in a primary. Ted Kennedy couldn't beat Jimmy Carter. So they looked at this and they said, this is no way a winnable race. Now, maybe the numbers are different after the war in the Middle East, and maybe the numbers are different after the debate performance. But at the time that candidates decided not to run, it wasn't because someone told them not to run. It's because they didn't think they could win.
So you think that the talk about him being off the ticket, unless he decides to, is noise, as far as what you're hearing in-house?
My view is that there's only two people who really matter, Joe Biden and Jill Biden, maybe Barack Obama. And Obama put out a very strong statement. I think the New York Times, members of Congress, all that is noise.
Khanna, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on today, and I appreciate you making the case. You're always welcome. Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.